Hello, new quarantine people. So I wanted to show you guys what we're going to start here from home. I'm going to begin in Photoshop just to show you what an example of a final project looks like. And then I'm going to kind of transfer over and I'm going to start using the program that you guys are going to use, which is Pixlr.com. So um, your stylized portrait, and this is kind of what I talked to everybody about yesterday. um, Basically what we're doing is we are going to recreate um, a person of your choice. And when you first start doing this, it's going to look weird, and that's okay. Most people kind of hit the panic button after the first few steps. But as we go further and further and we start to add more details, what you guys will see is that your person is really going to start to take shape. And honestly, this is always one of the projects that eighth graders end up liking a whole bunch just because it turns out really cool. These turn out, um, you get some neat effects here. As you've probably realized already, I'm doing Mr. Nick Fury here. You can see that it's composed of a lot of different layers, and that's okay. So this is the picture that I originally had started with and what it ended up looking like following my design. So we're going to go over to pixlr.com at this point, and I will show you how to set this up. So for our stylized portrait here, because you guys are at home and you may not have access to Adobe Photoshop, you're going to use this program called pixlr.com. Now, Pixlr is a free website, and it does a lot of the same stuff as Photoshop. It just doesn't have all the cool bells and whistles. But for our project here, it's going to work. So Pixlr is spelled Pixlr. And on the first page, you guys will see two options. You'll see this Advanced Pixlr E and the Playful Pixlr X. You always want to be using the Advanced Pixlr E. So we'll go ahead and open that up. Now, when you get to this first page, what we're going to do is we're going to hit Create New. Okay, now it has a few preset options, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to customize this on our own. Over here on the right where it says Name, you're going to call this Portrait, Portrait, and then your last name. Now it kind of stinks, your width and height, you can't set this to inches. So what we have to do is we have to set this to pixels. So for the width, we're going to make this 2000. And for our height, we're going to do 2600. 2600. Okay? And then we'll go ahead and hit create. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to find a picture that you're going to use. You're copying and pasting it just the same way you would with Photoshop. Now up here, this is what's called your Arrange tool. Okay, you can see where my mouse is now. Your Arrange tool is pretty much the same thing as your Move and Resize tool from Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make this nice and large so that it fits on your document appropriately. There we go. That'll work. Now, for this project, we're only going to use 3 tools. And again, it's very similar to Photoshop. But basically, we're going to recreate the different areas of your person's face. We'll kind of trace them out and fill them in. Currently, I have a background layer and the picture of Chris here. Okay, I need to make sure that I've begun by clicking on my actual layer of Chris, and I'm going to come down here in the layer menu to this little plus button, and I'm going to click on that. Now, when you add a layer here in Pixlr, you have a few different types of layers that you can add. You can add an empty layer, an image, or a text layer. What we actually want to do is we want to pick this option that says empty, okay, because we want a totally blank layer with nothing on it. Now, again, as I said before, we're only going to use 3 tools for this project. The first tool that we're going to use is this right here. This is what's called the lasso tool. Now, you guys have used the lasso tool before in Photoshop, And you'll recognize some of these similar options. You have the free lasso, the polygon lasso. This is what we used to cut the windows out in the Window to Another World project. You have your magnetic lasso, and then you have this extra guy called the bezeler. Okay? But we're actually going to use a familiar lasso. We are going to use the polygon. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. So the first thing that we're going to do with our polygonal lasso here is we're going to trace out our person's neck and face. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. I'm going to start down here around the neck. Now what you'll see that I'm doing is clicking, enough where I can get um, a little bit of the shape of the face, but I don't want to do it like every single little millimeter, but I don't want to make my person look like a blockhead either. Now, as I do this, what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to ignore the ears. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap the hair just a little bit. And the reason why I'm overlapping into the hair here is because we're going to do the hair later. And if I just went to the edge of the hair, when we do that hair later, it would have a little gap right there, and that would kind of look weird. Okay. All right, so again, I'm going to get all the way around back to the beginning. I can see that that area is now selected. My next tool that I'm going to use is this down here. This is what we call the picker. This is called the eyedropper in Photoshop. But what the picker lets you do is select a color. So you'll see that as I move my mouse over my screen, it's going to find the color that I want. So what I want to do here is I want to pick what we call a midtone. A midtone is kind of the base color of the skin. Not a darker area over here, this would be a shadow. Not a brighter area over here, that would be a highlight. A color right kind of in the middle. And I'm going to click that. And what you'll see that over here at the bottom of my toolbar, my main color becomes that color that I've just clicked. All right. The final tool that we're going to use here is what we call the fill tool. The fill tool is called the paint bucket in Photoshop. But what this does when you click on an area is it's going to fill that whole area with that color that you've selected. At this point, what I want to do is I want to go up to where it says select and hit deselect. I can also hit Control D just like in Photoshop. Now we have our midtone found. Okay, go away advertisement. What I'm going to do now is in my layer menu over here, I'm going to bring my picture of Chris to the top. Now at any time what I can do is I can hide Chris here and I can see my progress that I've made on my stylized portrait. Now at this point we just kind of repeat what we've just done basically. We're going to make a new layer and we want it to be an empty layer. We're going to use our polygonal lasso. And this time we're going to trace out our shadows. Okay, so you may have a couple of different shadows on the face. For me, the predominant shadowed area is the left side of my face. It may be on the outer edges of your face. It may be just a darker area under your chin. But for me, it's going to kind of look like this. Comes all the way down through here. Kind of like that. Again, I'm going to use my color picker. Find the shadowed color. Use my filler. Fill it in. Deselect. Once again, I'll bring my picture to the top. Again, I can check on my progress at any time. This is what I have so far. And then I'll make a new layer. Once again, I'm going to go create an empty layer. Use my polygonal lasso. And this time, what I'm looking for are highlights. So for me, this part of his face, maybe not so many. Let's see. Oops. Let's reset with my Let's start over. Come on, Mr. Shelton. For those of you who are wondering, I hit escape. Escape let me kind of restart fresh with my polygonal lasso. And this would kind of be my highlighted area up here. Oops. You'll find that Pixlr is a little bit more frustrating than Photoshop. There's a reason why it is free. But, you know, when you're at home and you got nothing else to do, it works. Alright, so once again, here's my highlight. Here's my filler. Check my progress. I can see that this is where I am right now on my face. So that's all the further we're going to go for today. We will pick back up with this on Monday. I will have a longer video for you. Sorry guys, I ran into a few technical difficulties. On Monday we'll talk about the eyes, nose, mouth, and we'll kind of evolve from there. But as long as you have a nice little start on it for today, for Friday, you're all good.